recording. So again, I'm going to send this video connection to you through an email and an announcement in Moodle. It will be a TED Talk, and it'll say Martin Pistorius. Watch it before class on Wednesday. I'm going to rewrite these questions so that you know what you're watching for, and that'll be important for our discussion. Okay, you have your next assignments coming up on Monday, and that is Journal A or B. Same process that you use for your discussion forums. And today we're going to talk about your assignment that's coming up on September 27th, which is 3 project proposals. And so I'm going to give you a better, more detailed overview than the first day of class of what your term project is about, all right? And from that, we're going to drive into the very first part of that assignment, which is your 3 topic proposals. Everybody must turn in 3 topic proposals, and you'll understand why. And then, of course, our module ends on October 4th, which is the Module 1 test. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's start off by understanding what is culture. Now, many of you may have taken archaeology, anthropology, sociology courses, and many of these courses have, definitions for their disciplines for what is culture. Today, what I'm going to do is explain to you how communication studies scholars understand the concept of culture. And by understanding that, it will help you to hone in on what you want to do for your term project, all right? So the first thing that we want to do is to recognize that in communication, culture is defined as the way we do, say, and think around here. All right? So the culture is what drives a lot of behaviors. But what I want you to recognize is that even though we've got sort of umbrella of everything under here I'm going to talk about in terms of culture, the bottom line to this discussion is that culture does not determine, it does not determine who you are. Okay? Emphasis on the word determine. What culture does is influences who you are. Now that distinction is important because what we're trying to do is not to judge people by the culture they represent. What we want to do as communication scholars is we want to talk with people. We want to get to know them, as we've already been talking about in class. And we want to get past what is an appearance, so to speak, and so that we can get into the heart and the mind of individuals, because that's where beauty is. That's where we find out what is really going on. Sometimes I will even say that that could be where evil is, all right? What you want to do is where is truth. You want to find out what's the real person, okay? The good news is that there are more beautiful people than there are evil people in the world. Thank heaven. All right? So when I talk about these things, keep that in mind, that culture does not determine who you are or what you become. It will influence, and the degree of influence is up to you, okay? So there are three things that we want to look at. So as I'm talking about these, I want you to think about outside of the United States. Who outside of the United States, based on your knowledge today, has the same or different attitudes, values, and beliefs? All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to, on a continuum, begin with what is an attitude. All right? And attitudes, by communication scholars, is designed as what is okay and not okay. So what's acceptable? What kind of behavior, what things that you say are acceptable and unacceptable. So what's interesting is that okay, for many of us, is to say Black Lives Matter. For some people who are influenced by a different culture, they may say, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. All right. White lives matter too. All right. So that is an attitude. It's an attitude about life. It's an attitude about worldview. It's an attitude about everything. All right. What's okay and what's not okay. Now, as you can tell, everything is on a continuum. So if we think of this as being center point, all right, and we go from a neutrality of kind of a 0 point all the way over to 100 here and 100% agree, all right, you can see that this continuum has an outward arrow, or two outward arrows. And what we use here in Western is to say that people who are on the left, all right, tend to culturally agree with what are known as civil liberties. All right, we believe in what is liberal. All right, more guidance instead of laws, more acceptance versus thou shalt nots kind of thing. Versus people on the right often identify with what would be known as conservative. And that's not a dirty word. Conservative means there is a goal or a desire to preserve and protect that which is good and that which is valuable and that which is important, all right? So their attitude is to conserve, lots of times, the status quo. If it ain't broke, don't break it. If it's worked for my dad, it'll work for me, you know, kind of thing. And so there is this kind of a perseverance, preserving that which is perceived to be very, very good, all right? So that's what we mean by attitude, what is okay and not okay, all right? And as you can imagine, here in the United States, it is not okay in most states to have more than one wife, all right? If you go outside of the United States, you will see that there are many cultures where having more than one spouse is okay. It's rather ironic. It's always it's okay to have more than one wives. I don't know of a culture that says it's okay to have more than one husband. Be an interesting term. Okay, so now let's look at the next one. And the next one is what we refer to as values. right? And a value is that which we hold to be almost sacred, if not sacred, okay? We value certain things. As you can imagine, as a communication scholar, I value freedom of speech. I value freedom of the press. I value the opportunity to come together and protest. I value those kinds of American ideals because that is part of what I subscribe to. And my culture is something that would be, I would be willing to fight for. I value the right to vote, which, by the way, I have already voted. And it's one of those things where it's, I would die before I would lose my right to vote. I would fight. And as a woman, oh yeah, I would fight. Okay. Um, Values might be something else, though. Other cultures, again, outside of the United States, you know what? Voting is nice, but you know what I need more? I need food in my belly. All right. I value safety. I value the ability to eat and to feed my family. That's the most important value right now. Still, other countries, the value might be, dying for God, being willing to kill myself in the name of a whatever is perceived as a God. Okay, and that's a value, which is, my perception of a God or value of that which is sacred is far important than me, right? And there's lots of different other kinds of things that we value, and each and every one of you values different things, okay? Again, there's a continuum, all right? And the values are going to be different depending on your cultural alignment, which side you tend to fall more aligned with. Then the next one is what we call beliefs. And these also fall along a continuum, and those beliefs are things that you know to be true without proof. All right. So the classic example is a belief in God. A belief in God, and there's going to be many people who are going to say, I don't need proof, all right? Or I see proof in the trees outside that there is a God, or whatever it might be. Climate change. Some people say, I don't need proof. I don't believe it's true. I don't believe we have a problem with climate change. We've been going through these cycles for, thousands of years. Today's no different than, 10,000 years ago. Everything will even out okay. Whereas some people will say, nah, I've got proof here, and therefore I believe in truth, and that proof is X, Y, and Z. Okay, so where do you fall along a continuum of what you believe in? What do you believe? Okay, so as we go through this, hopefully some of you have started to think about other places of the world who has one or more of these that are distinctly different from you. All right, so for instance, let's go back to belief. Some of you may believe that the only way to heaven is to believe in a person who walked the earth named Jesus, who was the son of a God, right? And those of you who believe that, okay, you don't need proof, you just know it, all right? And there are other people in the world, and I'm going to use Islam as an example now, who believe that, and actually Islam and Judaism, There was a man 2,000 years ago named Jesus, as best we understand, who did walk the earth in the Middle East part of the world. And according to Islam, he was a great prophet, okay, not the son of a god, okay. To the Jewish community, they see him as a rabbi who was a radical rabbi at the time, and taught many things that were ancient text of in the Torah and the Talmud, and wanted to remind people of those teachings, but was not a god. Okay, so that's a belief. And oftentimes, what we want to do as students and scholars and global scholars is to say, I want to understand another person's perspective. Now, this is important. I don't have to agree after I've talked with somebody. It's not what we're going for. But I would like to be enlightened to try and understand your point of view. How do you see an example of this man? And what informed information do you have that makes you draw that conclusion? Okay. Now, the other thing I want you to know is that none of us are 100% aligned with one side. Okay, I'm a classic example. I'm a bleeding liberal from Southern California. However, I do have issues with abortion. And part of that is because of my faith of being a Catholic, a California Catholic, not a North Carolina Catholic. That's another story. But what that means is that if I only sided with all liberalism, then I would say abortions were A-okay. But for me personally, for me personally, another person, I'm not going to judge what their choice is, but for me personally, I would not choose that, okay? So this is what we're talking about when we look at culture. So this is all plays into it. So right now in your notes, I want you to just off the top of your head, brainstorm 4 or 5 cultures that come to mind that are very different from you in an attitude, a value, or a belief, or all the above, or only one. Okay? Write down what those are. Think of 5. I'm going to brainstorm, and this is important. Outside of the United States. Okay. Now, for those of you who have your laptops up, if you would like to type in the chat box some examples, I want to put them up on the board. So if somebody would type those in the chat box, what differences, cultural differences come up to mind. Please, somebody. Or shout it out, just so I can hear. Nope, you guys are going to be too shy, huh?
Well, I mean, one of us can start us off. One culture that I found rather different from me, for example, is uh, the BLM culture.
Which empire?
Sorry?
I'm so sorry, I can't understand you.
All right. One culture that I found different from me was the BLM culture. Most of it doesn't really make that much sense from an individualistic standpoint.
Ah, okay. So, and who was it again?
The BLM culture, Black Lives Matter.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. Let's do the Black Lives Matter as an example. Now, for this is a Global Scholars Project. Can you select that for here in America? The answer is no. All right. But where else is this a movement that's moving very strongly? You
Probably.
know?
Oh, I said probably in Europe.
Yes, specifically Great Britain. Yes, very big. Because if you think about the 1600s and the colonies, that was huge in terms of the slave arena. So yes. So if you wanted to do, to try and understand the Black Lives Matter movement in Great Britain, because that would help you to also understand the Black Lives Matter movement here in the United States, all right? That would be approved, okay? But if you just said Black Lives Matter, that won't be approved, okay? What's another example? Excellent, by the way, that's a great example. Anybody want to try another one? All right, here's one for you. All right, so maybe you would try and understand why a person would kill themselves as in suicide bombing to hurt others. But you can't just say the Middle East, and you can't just say Islam, but you could say, let's say in Somalia, all right, to bring it down into one particular part of the world. Here's another one. In the LGBTQ plus world, in Uganda, all right, that's a capital punishment. You will be killed by the country, the state, the government, if it is discovered that you are a member of this community. And you don't understand why in the world they would be that way. All right. So let's see, we've got Great Britain, we've got Africa. Oh, we've got another Africa. Okay, well, let's do this one. Let's say in Africa. So we've got another part of the world. Maybe you are interested in looking at what else? What else might be interesting? Anything? Okay, well, there's lots. All right. And you can take a look at all parts of the world and be thinking about it. But I want you to notice that it is specific country, not a region, but a country, okay? and it is a particular group of people. Now, the reason I've identified this group of people is because this is what would be known as marginalized. All right? They're in the margins. They are not the majority of people from a particular region, okay? And marginalized can mean that they are discriminated against, or even that they are revered and held up as marginally unique and special in every way, all right? Oh my gosh, there's so many more. Maybe you're interested in arranged marriages. The idea of an arranged marriage, not based on love, is just unfathomable for you. And so what you want to do is you want to look at that in India or Japan or some other countries, okay? So keep this in mind. This is what we're going for. Now, you are going to be required to do 3 topics, okay? 3. And the reason you're going to do 3 is because we can have no repeats in the class. And the first people who submit your proposal, and it'll be date and time stamped, literally, when you submit it in Moodle, those first submitted topic proposals will be the first to receive them. But you have to have 3. You can't just have 1. All right, even if it's really early, you have to have 3 proposals. Okay? Now, you're not done yet. For each one of these, then, you're going to need to hone in on what is it relative to communication studies that you want to study. So literally, you're going to go through your entire table of contents in your textbook, and you're going to look for some of the theories, terms, and practices. Theories, terms, and practices, all right, that you want to assign to each topic that you want to look at, right? So let's say that you are really interested in, here's some proven topics that you might want to include, and that here's one, which is culture shock. That's an actual theory, and there's a process that everybody goes through. So as you were talking to these people, or you visit the country and you see how things happen, there would be some culture shock going through the different processes. Another thing is the concept you heard earlier by a classmate, individualism versus, we talked about this in class, collectivism. All right, so how does that IPC theory play into one of these? Maybe what you want to look at is, well, that gives you an idea. Any questions? Now, you are welcome to send to me in advance something that you might be thinking about, and I'll be happy to look at it. I would prefer it to be controversial. Don't pick something that's just like blah, blah. Pick something that's going to be important to you. You know, I use the idea of those of you in the automotive world who maybe you get an assignment working in South Korea or Japan or Germany or someplace where there's another manufacturer going on, and you walk in, what we don't want to be is what's known as the ugly American. okay? And the ugly American is a concept or term that says we are ethnocentric, all right? That would be a great term to use, in that we judge everybody, judge, evaluate, critique, all right? Say we're better than others, okay? So we judge everybody else's attitudes, values, and beliefs based on our attitudes, values, and beliefs, right? So we might go into a part of the world where there is amazing agriculture, and we look at how they are tilling the land and they are doing everything by hand. And they're still having problems with insects or, you know, plants that come in that shouldn't be there. And you want to go in on your big white horse, so to speak, and say, oh, I have Roundup. Let me give you this insecticide called Roundup, and you can, because it works for us, the United States, and you can take care of all those bugs and have a bumper crop that will just be fantastic. Now, don't worry about the claims that it causes cancer. Those are overrated. We don't know that's true yet. Or maybe it might cause a little bit, I don't know, but it's nothing to be worried about. Our way is the better way, okay? So that's what we want you to not be like, all right? One of my favorite places I would love to go and study is in Thailand because of the Buddhism, which they have trouble even practicing now, but there is a type of meditation that is very profound, very close to prayer, very close to using meditation beads like rosary beads, and it's just amazingly beautiful. I would love to go there, and I would love to go there and learn how similar we are rather than how different we are. Okay. All right, so you are going to have 3 topic proposals, okay? Each topic proposal, each one, all right, must have a country, must have a people, okay? Country and people, all right? And must have IPC terms that you think at this point are going to help you to understand or come to know them better, right? So, on September 27th or earlier, you are going to submit 1 piece of paper, all right? And you're going to have your name and make sure you put the section that you're in and all that stuff at the top. And you are literally going to have 3 paragraphs. Those are paragraph blocks, all right? And in each one of these, you are going to have, again, the people, the country, and the IPC terms. Oops. All right, in one complete paragraph. Now, I also want to know, why do you care? So, I really want to hear, is there something about your future career? Is it about a person that you're dating? Is it about an in-law or a distant relative? Is it what you see on the news and you want to find out where is truth? So I want you to tell me why. Why is this particular group in this country and with these terms, why is that important to you to study? Okay. And make it legit, make it important. Some students have done some amazing analysis in this process. All right, so now everybody go to your course. Go to your little course. And in module 1, scroll down to where it says term project, proposals for term project. Okay. Now we're going to do this as a process flow so that you don't all wait until the last week to do this assignment. So the first part of the project is going to be your topics, all right? Then what you're going to do is start doing some research. And your textbook gives you articles to actually use. So when you look at the bottom of your textbook and you see the source citations, those you can actually go to and read all about what it is you're studying from a communication perspective. All right? You're going to turn in what's known as an annotated bibliography. I'm not going to go into that right now because I want to talk about that in Module 3. But the annotated bibliography is your research that has to pass the CRAP test. You can't just Google your data. Cannot just Google. Don't even think it. This is where you need to go into the library and get some good work done. All right? And you can get extra credit with demonstrating that you've worked with librarians. Okay? So it's got to pass the CRAP test. Then you're going to select a video that is scholarly. So something like a news program from a reputable news network. You're going to watch a TED Talk or a National Geographic presentation or something from the History Channel or what have you, all right? So you are going to then recommend a video. Actually, you're going to be able to do it here too. In your annotated bibliography, you should have a video. And if I reject the video, then you have to resubmit a new one. More information will come on that one. But you can use documentaries as your research. So you can use 2 or 3 TED Talks, and those are excellent means of doing research. And then what you're going to do is a 3 to 5 page term paper. All right, and you're going to submit that toward the last week of the semester. And then you're going to read 2 term papers and the corresponding video from your classmates. Okay, and you're going to watch, you're going to write a one page reaction paper about each one. So you're going to have to do 2 reaction papers. All right, and again, that's the last week of the semester. And all the way through, you have to use the the terms, make connections and extensions of the terms, theories and practices. Okay, so that's our flow. And as you can see, this one's coming up on the 27th. Your annotated bibliography is not going to be due until October-ish. And I'm not sure when that is, but it's a ways away. And so you'll have time for doing that, and I'll give you some assistance, and then you can always go to the writing lab. So this is how the term project's going to be. That's what we mean by our project flow. There is a grading rubric, so everybody click on, you're on the Moodle homepage. You see where it says PowerPoint only explanation? Click on that. Open up that PowerPoint. Scroll down the PowerPoint to where it says the grading of the proposals and how I will grade it based on, 100 points. Okay. So you will have a rubric for everything, all right? But that's the rubric I'm going to be using for the one that's coming up. If you missed anything today, and for those of you at home watching this for Wednesday, you also can look at this PowerPoint. There's also, if you close this PowerPoint, you will also see that there is a voiceover audio video explanation for what I've talked about. It does not include an explanation of culture, but it does talk about the term project, right? So our goal here is really for you to have comfort and a desire to meet the other. And the other is anyone who is different from you. Okay? Any questions? No? Okay. All right, you guys are great. You're quiet. Great. Have a good day. Oh, yes, come on up to the front, ask your question.
Um, so